Hello and welcome to the West London Sport QPR podcast with me, David McIntyre, and former MK Don striker Kevin Gallen. We are back. I absolutely promise you that when QPR were doing well, we really did want to do a podcast to discuss that. Kevin in particular, we're mindful of the fact that it looked like we're just here when results are going against Rangers. That isn't the case. I promise you, for one reason or another, we simply haven't been able to do a podcast before now. We are back, hopefully with more regular pods, but we are back with QPR on a bit of a slump, as everyone knows again, unfortunately. So, Kevin, you were denied your chance a few weeks ago to talk about what was going right, and we're back to talking about what's been going wrong. So, what has gone wrong?
Well, I go back to the start of when Marty first came in. I believe he tried to play a style of football which was more possession-based, more passing. It didn't work. It didn't work out. He changed tact at the end of January 2024, where he went a little bit more direct. He brought in Michael Frey, Anderson, bigger players, put Jimmy Dunn right back, which gave the team an extra header in both boxes, defensively and attacking-wise. And it really worked. Confidence grew. You know, the amount of goals, the Jimmy Dunn and Steve Cook combination was very effective in keeping us up with their goals for. And then I believe that he went back to try and pass it out from the back at the start of the season, which didn't work. And then when we did have the good spell, I think we went a little bit more direct again, more with set pieces, more when they had the ball, we would sit back and sit deep. The modern term is a low block, but we sat deep and hit them hit teams on the counter attack and looked effective. I then believe that when we got safe in January, where we looked like, there was talk of, you never know, there was talk about a few points off the playoffs. I believe the team has sort of changed tact again and gone into a more sort of, trying to pass it out from the back and a bit more pass and more possession. And I don't think it suits the players at the moment. So that's what I believe has gone wrong. Obviously, injuries hasn't helped. There's been a lot of injuries, and Saturday's game against Stoke showed that with the lack of strikers available to the manager. And it's a big worry. The Derby have got a game this week, and you're just hoping that they don't pick up any points. And if they do, just Saturday's just not. It's just a must. People will say it's a must-win game, but I would say you just don't lose that game. You just pick up a point at least. You do not lose that game against Cardiff on Saturday.
I mean, you mentioned the injuries. They have been awful again. That's been the story of not just this season, but previous seasons. There weren't many options for him on Saturday. But what did you think of that team selection? Because it was, you look at the quality of the side and the bench. I mean, I would say that's one of the poorest QPR lineups I've seen in a long time. What did you think about that lineup?
Well, after the game, I think the manager said that Alfie Lloyd was he coming back from an injury, but not to start him, and you got the only recognised striker at the club not starting and playing Dembele up front on his own. Where, I mean, how are you going to get up the pitch with Dembele if you're going to go a little bit longer? You really do have to play through the midfield and be a real good possession team for him to get on the ball. So it was just, I don't know, it was a strange decision. I'm thinking he might have thought, if we could have been 0-0 or, in the game with maybe 30 minutes to go on the 60th minute, then he might have brought in Lloyd for if we were sitting back for a counter attack, which he has done in the past, and that's pretty much when he's played his best is when he's playing away from home, and there's space in behind for him to run into the channels, and he looks a handful when he plays like that. But bit of a strange decision, and he probably might have regretted that he didn't start with Lloyd and sort of be a bit more muscular, a bit more stronger in the first 60, 70 minutes.
Yeah, I think he did regret it. We did ask him about that team selection for the Stoke game. We'll quickly run what he said. This is what he had to say about it.
It was not easy because today I felt that a lot of the decisions that I made, and probably now if I could go back, I would change some things definitely, but it was based on Jan coming back from a very long trip from Korea, Yeah, Alfie coming back, Alfie Lloyd, who jumped, I think, in a positive way in the halftime. He did good things. He's coming back from an injury. He's the only striker available from the 4 we got, and we need to take care because he's going to be so important the next 7 games. So definitely some of the decisions that I made are based on the situation where we are. As I said, we tried to pick Michi, pick an injury yesterday on the training. It was a last-minute situation, so we had to take a decision. My thoughts the last 24 hours were if Kadi, Dembele, who has been working and improving his minutes and getting through his fitness levels, could start again, and we thought it could be an option because Alfie, as I said, I really like Alfie, really trust him, but it's true that he's coming back from another injury. He's having some issues, small issues, and I want to protect him. So we rely everything on him when we have 3 strikers injured and he's the only one available. Obviously we have more games as well, so we thought that he could have an impact during the game, as I think it was, but yeah, that's the situation where we were in terms of taking decisions.
I mean, however you slice and dice it, there is still a really bad lack of options there, both in terms of fit players and frankly players who are good enough. I mean, Nicholas Madsen, their flagship signing, really in many ways in the summer. He's on the bench at best. He came on Saturday. I mean, we talked about it before, Kev, but a lot of the problems, don't they, just go back really to the recruitment in the summer?
Yeah, I mean, Nicholas Madsen, was it 3 million, 3.5 million, 5-year contract? I mean, we've got so many injuries. Why don't you, at least he's 6'4". Why don't you start him up front? I mean, the manager obviously doesn't fancy him one bit because the last 2 or 3 months, he hasn't had a real look in, has he? He's, I mean, going back to the turning point in the season, I think the turning point in the season was Nicholas Madsen not playing and Salah getting injured. It sort of turned our season around. That's when we picked up some real form. I don't like picking up and making scapegoats, but the reality is that's what happened. And Nicholas Madsen, I mean, it's you've got no strikers. You're playing Stoke away. He's your flag, like you said, he's a flagship signing. Just play him and see how he gets on. But obviously, the manager don't fancy him.
Yeah, I mean, it is difficult picking out individuals, but like you said, that absence of Madsen and Salah earlier in the season, it did kind of lead to that upturn in results. Another thing I wanted to ask you about, Kevin, is reliance on the system. As you said, there's been a change of style here or there, but he's very wedded to that 4-2-3-1 or nearest damn it. Do you think he's a little bit too rigid there? Are you surprised that he hasn't shifted it around a bit, particularly in light of the fact that at times, not all the time, but at times, they've been quite strong at centre back, so he's had the options to potentially play 3 there. Is it a bit surprising that he seems quite wedded to that system?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he maybe changes. He might change it, and you could maybe play 3 centre halves on Saturday or the next few away games, just to be a bit more solid and pick up a point away from home. Because look, I do believe for QPR, we're 2 or 3 points away from safety, and the quicker we get those points, the anxiety from the supporters and obviously the players, but the supporters especially, will disappear straight away. But yeah, maybe you've got Morgan Fox. You could play Cook middle or Morrison middle, Jimmy Dunn right, Smith right wing back, Powell left wing back, and just have that extra man at the back just to be a bit more solid. So it's difficult. Is it coming from above that he has to play this a certain way? I don't know. Is that the way the people above the hierarchy want to play a certain system throughout the whole club? You might know more about that than me, Dave, but you just don't know what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, somebody who might know about that, for example, would be the head of methodology, John D'Souza, who I think we'll get him on, actually. Yeah, I think he'd be a good person to get on here. I'm sure he'd be happy to do it. We could maybe ask him about that. Just going back to the recruitment, I mean, obviously, rather than looking back, looking forward, We're going to say it again because we say it all the time. It never seems to change. This summer will be another big summer in terms of recruitment. It's the QPR way, unfortunately. Every transfer window is more defining and life-changing and vital than the last one. There never seems to be a point where the squad is at least kind of half built. I mean, it is a bit. It's a big one, isn't it, in terms of what they need to do? Any repeat of the previous summer, and it's curtains next season.
Well, yeah. I mean, if it's anything like last season, we're going to be like in bigger trouble. I mean, Jimmy Dunn. It looks to me that he'll probably leave. So I think you need two right backs or a number one right back and someone who can come in and play. Left back Powell looks like he's leaving. I don't know what the situation is, but they haven't signed contracts. They might be getting better offers somewhere else. I mean, Jimmy Dunn was a big focus in January, wasn't it? That he was going to go to Sheffield United. It didn't happen, but they probably will. He's a free transfer. Was he 26, 27? This might be an opportunity in his mind that he can get some get a sort of a payday because he's not going to play forever. So I feel there's a massive transfer window. I think 7, 8 players at least that needs to come in. 2 right backs, a left back, someone else who can fill at left back. I think you need another midfielder, couple of maybe even 2 strikers. I do feel we're lacking a little bit of power and pace in the middle of the park and out wide, and that needs to be rectified. So, like you said, it's another big summer for QPR.
I think we've talked about this a bit, Kevin. I've mentioned some, I think it's missing. I'm all for having flair players in the chair mould. I think it's a QPR way. It's how it should be. But there, for a long time, even when there was a reliance on the likes of Chair and Willock, and you could see it now even with Koki Sato and 1 or 2 others, that there are some good players, but they're players who kind of, move in and out of matches and in and out of form. But there's just that lack of what the best teams in that division have, and QPR have been hit with so many times, particularly at home. If you remember games where you might kind of feel like you're dominating at home, it's that ability, that strength of teams to just get out wide, through you, ball into the box, and it's a goal before you know what's hit you. There's just that robustness, just that strength and that pace and that movement that QPR have just not had for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I mean the chair. I think I know he's been plagued by injuries this season, but I feel like he might be best moving into the number 10 position now. And I'd like to see someone with like real pace on the left side. I mean, Sato at home, I think he does well. He can go past someone, but then I always believe the fullback of the opposition can always catch him up because he hasn't got the real legs to go past and get past and keep going. He can do it in the edge of the box, and when he only needs to find a couple of yards away from home, I've seen that a lot on a big pitch, that he does go past the player, maybe on the halfway line, but then that right back can catch him up straight away. I do feel we need some power and pace all over the team. I think it's been lacking quite a lot this season, and robustness of the championship, of the Saturday, Tuesday, or Wednesday fixture list is tough, and we need to. I mean, look at the injuries. We seem to pick up so many injuries this season than normal. I mean, 3 centre forwards out for the best part of the season. I think Alfie Lloyd's been the most available. Is that right? I would say the most available centre forward, and we need someone who can get 30 or 40 games in him.
Yeah, I mean, and another, I think, maybe worrying thing from a Rangers' point of view is that we've often talked about that change 2 seasons in a row that the manager's made, and that change of approach. And who's been the key man to all of that? Jimmy Dunn. So, and he's also been quite heavily reliant at times on Steve Cook as well. So you're looking at a potential situation next season where one of those is not at the club, or perhaps in the case of Cook is not fit all the time. You could get into a situation where you need to make that change again, but there isn't a way out of trouble this time because, as I said, Dunn has been the key man during those 2 seasons where the change has been made.
Yeah, no, 100%. And he's been a threat in both boxes. And I was watching the Leeds game, and on the TV. I couldn't make it, and I think that it come up as a stat. He's had the most efforts on goal out of all the QPR players, which that doesn't bode well for the attacking players. I mean, we're missing Clark Salter. I mean, we haven't seen him since September. We're missing him. Hopefully, we need him back ASAP. Well, it looks like he ain't gonna play for the rest of the season, so we need him fit next season. But like we said, there's a big rebuilding job, and the recruitment has to get it right this time.
And what about looking abroad for players? I mean, it's easy to be sceptical about these things, but I think you've made the point before, and I know you scout abroad a lot of the time, and it's a relevant point, which is these guys are coming in from leagues where you don't really play midweek. I know it's a cliche that there's a lot of matches in this country, but there is, and it just seems like some of them are just not physically up to it.
Well, no, yeah, abroad in these European countries, it's a Saturday league, and they might even only have, other than like their cup games, but and I'm not talking about the big teams, Bayern Munich's and the PSG's, who have got massive squads and they can cope with the Champions League and stuff. And the tempo of their games is nowhere near the tempo of the English football. It's a lot slower. I'm not saying it's not as technical. It might be, but it's a lot slower than it's not as robust. And Saturday is a lot easier when you play Saturday, Tuesday. And if you ain't got a big squad to cope with that, it's tough. And especially if you're picking up so many injuries. And you're right. It seems that these players are not up to the Saturday, Tuesday fixture list. So I do. It plays a part in the injuries. They're not used to it. But I mean, we've had a really, is it unlucky? Like our injury record this season, is it unlucky, or is there something underlying with the training pitch? I don't know, but I'm sure they're looking into it, because it has to be looked into, because you can't be paying out wages to players who are not available, and you're in a situation at the moment like we are in.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a one-off, and it's certainly something that the manager's hinted many times that he's not happy with things there, and things that things need to be need to change. I mean, I think with hindsight, I tend to give Mark Warburton a lot of credit here, because I really liked Mark when he was manager at QPR. He's up there in terms of managers that I really rate. I thought he should have got the job before he did. And I thought he was, everything wasn't perfect, but he was very good in the job. But where he would frustrate me was he would talk constantly about looking after the players and managing their load. And my frustration with Mark was, frankly, I thought that he should be prepared to overrule some of the, what you might call stats geeks or whatever around him, the people with laptops. And I always felt like he should be prepared to just say no to them and go with it. Mick Beale came in further down the line and was getting advice about certain players and overruled it. And I thought, well, good on you. That's what we've needed. We've needed a manager who's prepared to do that, who's prepared to patch them up, send them out and get them playing. What then happened was the likes of Chris Willock got injured in exactly the way that Mark Warburton felt would happen. And I've come to appreciate how Mark was skating on ice more than I kind of realised at the time. And it does feel like there is just something in that club. I don't know what it is, but there's a constant frailty. There's a constant lack of robustness, and that has to be addressed, because it can't carry on. And there's people who've been put into the club whose job is to sort this kind of stuff out.
Yeah, no, 100%. But I at this sort of stage of the season, so we've got, how many games have we got left? Is it 7 or 8? 7 within pretty much a month. So really, the players are like, it's going to be a match Saturday, and then Oxford. You're not really going to do much training. The lads who are actually playing, they're not going to train that much. They're going to do a little bit, where the other players who are coming back from fitness have to do a bit more training. But the actual lads who are starting 11 on Saturday, and if they're going to be the starting 11 or the majority of the starting 11 against Oxford, they shouldn't be doing that much. You now should be at a level of fitness where you play, recover, It's different at the start of the season, where you have to get your fitness and maintain it. But when it's this stage of the season, it's play, recover, make sure you're right, play again. Your fitness ain't going to go up, and the only way it's going to go a little bit, it's going to go down because you're getting tired. And I'll just go back to when we got promoted in 2004, and we were coming into this April. I mean, a couple of days a week, we were sent down to the gym in Virgin Active, whatever, in Acton. And our training was a game of tennis, just to tide ourselves over, to do something. It wasn't like pounding on the training ground and running and sprints. It was just maintaining your fitness and making sure you're ready for the next game and concentrate. You do your tactical work, your set pieces, and the manager will be on the screen and going through the opposition. But in general, they shouldn't be doing much training now. The lads that are fit and who are the regulars playing in for the next 7 games. So I don't know what the situation, what kind of pre-season they had, but everything will be looked at, because that's what happens in football. When you pick up loads of injuries, they'll go back to what happened in pre-season. How long did they train for? Did they overtrain? Because sometimes you can overtrain. I mean, some players don't need to train as much as other players. Me, I needed to train pretty rigorously, but some players were just natural, like fit lads who could just not really do much, and then play on a Saturday and they'd be perfect. So everyone's different.
And they've got to address this question as well, haven't they? Which is, why are the squad and the club so streaky, in the sense that the runs of form going up and down, winning runs followed by losing runs? I mean, this goes back to when Holloway and Birch were down there. It's not a new thing. What's going on? And that's something that they're going to have to address as well, because it's just constant. It's almost like this boom and bust run of form every time. It's incredible.
Yeah, the word is consistently inconsistent. So, I mean, the start of the season was awful. Then it was really good, and everyone was buzzing. And now the last 10 games, it's gone awful again. There's no getting about it. And some of the performances have been really below par. But that can do. Look, injuries obviously don't help, but confidence as well. And then, I do believe Mrs. Sandfield has been a big miss. A little bit more experience, and not just experience as in he's an old head, because he's not that old, but he's got experience for playing in the Championship. But then at the start of the season, he was part of that problem. But I do feel if we had him fit, we'd be in a better shape than we are now.
And isn't the elephant in the room that maybe some of them just thought season was over?
Well, you never know. Yeah, well, that can happen, and then that you might switch off a little bit, and then that can bite you on the backside, because you get into a run like we are now, and now you're like looking after your shoulder and you're feeling anxious, and you're like, well, we need the pressure's a bit on. So pressure's going to be on Saturday. Hopefully we can get a win, and then that takes just takes all the anxiety away, and everyone can look forward to next season. But I need to get something on Saturday, and hopefully the teams below them don't.
Just finally, on the kind of recruitment theme, in terms of decisions made over players in and players out, James Patterson, who helps us out producing this podcast and does a lot of the video stuff on the side that people will have seen, we'll probably bring James into the podcast at some point, making the point that Elijah Dixon Bonner, who has been largely fit, has gone on loan. Larkesh as well. Kelman, I'm not sure whether Kelman's good enough at the level, but I felt for some time that including when Dykes was there and Armstrong was there, that he was actually the best finisher at the club. I mean, there's 1 or 2 players that they've let go. Do those loan deals, are they a mistake, do you think, with hindsight, Kev?
Well, maybe. I don't think Dixon and Bonner is good enough for QPR. Larkesh, but then they had Santos there, didn't they? They had who maybe could have filled in at left back. They also had, they still have Ashby, who doesn't get a look in, and another one who you'd think maybe could fill in at left back or right back, but doesn't get a sniff. So you've got 4 fullbacks there. Larkesh didn't really impress me last season, but he seems to be having a decent season in Scotland. But Scotland's a different kettle of fish to the Championship. And Kelman, yeah, Kelman, I probably agree. A good finisher from what everyone's told me, technically good. I just feel if you play Kelman up front on his own, how do you get up the pitch with him? As you know, the manager seems to want a sort of a bit of a more muscular target man type like Michael Frey, who can maybe bring players in and be a bit of a battering ram and a handful for the opposition centre halves. Kelman's not that type of player. He's more of an inbox finisher, but you need to get the ball. You need to get the right service into him. And have we got the quality out wide to get that service into him? We'll probably find out next season, because he's had a fantastic run with Leyton Orient, so you can't knock that. So he'll be given a chance, I'm sure, because of what he's done this season. But my thing with Kelman is, how do you get up the football pitch if he was playing for QPR?
Not sure about Kelman, to be honest. I think they're selling. Could end up being wrong on that, but I just get the feeling that with the goals he scored, they'll get an offer for him. And he'll go, but we'll have to see. Maybe he will. Maybe we'll get a chance before we go. Then the 2 games coming up. Then what do you think, Kev? Big ones. How do you see them go?
Well, I'm going to go to both. Well, I mean, Cardiff ain't great, are they? Depends. I don't know what it is. How's the injury situation for QPR? Have we got any strikers back? I think we need to.
Yeah, I mean, there's possible. Yeah, that they're looking to get 1 or 2 back for that. It's but like you say, Cardiff are not great. They look from what I've seen of Cardiff so far, the little bits I've seen of them, they're so bad they're bound to win 1-0, Kev.
Don't say that, God. I would say no. I'm going to go. I think we'll win 1-0 Saturday, and then I think it will be a tough one against Oxford. So I would take 3 points out of the next 2 games, and I think those 3 points will just be enough to keep us up.
I think 2 draws. I'm going to say 2 draws, and I think at this stage, I think that'd be enough. I think you just kind of, like you said, don't lose them. That's what you need to do at this stage. Yeah, but yeah. All right. Well, that's us done for now. Thanks for that, Kev, and we'll catch you all again soon.